Rome never fell. A world where Latin is the global language, where towering marble senate halls govern continents, where the Dark Ages never came, and human progress never stopped. This isn't fiction. It was one decision away from reality, one betrayal, one assassination. If Julius Caesar's murder had led to reform instead of empire, the modern world would be unrecognizable. No feudalism, no religious wars, no centuries lost to tyranny. This is the Rome that could have been, and the one that still haunts history. Let's rewrite history. Intro to the Roman Republic. Picture Rome in 509 BCE. The last king, Tarquin the Proud, has just been overthrown after his son's rape of Lucretia, a moment when citizens chose principles over power. From this trauma, something revolutionary emerged. The Roman Republic wasn't just a government, it was a delicate ecosystem of power. Imagine two consuls instead of one king, each able to veto the other, both serving just 1 year. Power, divided and temporary. Sound familiar? Our modern checks and balances weren't invented in Philadelphia. They were born on the 7 hills of Rome. The Senate, not like our modern version, consisted of former officials and aristocrats who served for life. They were the institutional memory, the steady hand guiding Rome's destiny across generations. Meanwhile, the common citizens had their own power through the tribunes of the plebs, who could shout veto, literally, I forbid, stopping even the Senate in its tracks. This wasn't abstract theory, this was their lived experience. When plebeians felt oppressed in 494 BCE, they simply walked out of Rome, refusing to fight in the army until given representation. Imagine if Americans today, fed up with Congress, simply refused to pay taxes or serve in the military until getting reforms. But like a stretching rubber band, Rome's brilliant system couldn't expand forever without breaking. As Rome conquered from Britain to Egypt, new strains emerged. Imagine your city council suddenly responsible for governing half the world. Wealth flooded in from conquered territories, creating a new super-rich class, while ordinary farmer soldiers returned to find their lands bought up by aristocrats and worked by slaves. It's as if today's veterans came home to find themselves unable to afford homes in the country they fought to defend. The tensions building in the Republic weren't just political disagreements, they were existential questions about what Rome had become. And as these pressures mounted, the stage was set for ambitious men to offer solutions, at democracy's expense. The crucial turning points. History isn't a straight line, but a series of crossroads, moments where everything hangs in the balance. For Rome, these moments came one after another, each pushing the Republic closer to the edge. Imagine being Tiberius Gracchus in 133 BCE. You've traveled across Italy and seen proud farmers, the backbone of Rome's armies, replaced by vast estates worked by slaves. Veterans who conquered the world for Rome now beg in the streets. Your solution? Redistribute public land to create a new class of citizen farmers. Simple, necessary, revolutionary, and it got Tiberius beaten to death on the Senate floor. His brother Gaius tried again 9 years later. Same result, reform drowned in blood. But what if they'd succeeded? What if compromise had prevailed over violence? Then came Marius, a brilliant general facing a military crisis. Rome needed soldiers, but had too few property-owning citizens to fill the ranks. His solution? Open the army to the poor, promising them land upon retirement. Ingenious, except these soldiers now look to their generals for their future, not the Republic. It's like if today's military swore loyalty to individual generals rather than the Constitution. The Republic's fever worsened when Sulla marched his loyal troops into Rome itself in 82 BCE. An unthinkable violation, like a modern general occupying Washington, D.C. Ironically, he declared himself dictator to restore the Republic, then retired. The precedent, however, was set. The final crossroads, Caesar and Pompey, two titans too powerful for one republic. Each step in their rivalry, Pompey's extraordinary commands, Caesar's refusal to disband his army, the Senate's desperate measures, was another crack in the foundation. What makes these moments heartbreaking is how preventable they were. The Republic didn't die of natural causes. It died from choices that, made differently, might have saved it. And that's where our alternative history begins. A new timeline unfolds. The Ides of March, 44 BCE. Caesar lies dead. But unlike our history, the conspirators aren't just assassins, they're visionaries with a plan. In the chaos following Caesar's death, imagine Marcus Junius Brutus, not just as Caesar's killer, but as the Republic's savior, standing before the Senate with blood still on his hands, proposing reforms that address the very wounds that had allowed Caesar to rise. First comes land reform. Not through confiscation, but through a brilliant system using newly conquered territories. Veterans receive farms in frontier provinces, creating a buffer of loyal citizen soldiers protecting Rome's borders. Think of America's Homestead Act, but with strategic military purpose. This solves two problems at once: rewarding soldiers while integrating new territories into the Republic. Next, citizenship expands outward like ripples in a pond. Italian allies who fought for Rome gained full rights, followed by provincial elites who adopted Roman ways. This isn't mere generosity, it's calculated stability. When local leaders in Spain or Gaul see paths to Roman citizenship and even Senate seats, rebellion becomes less appealing than participation. It's like if the British Empire had gradually integrated colonial subjects as equals, perhaps there would never have been an American Revolution. Provincial governance transforms too. Governors serve longer terms but face rigorous audits upon return to Rome. Sharing tax revenues with local communities gives provinces a stake in Roman success. Corruption diminishes when provincials themselves help oversee the collectors. Most crucially, military command rotates every 2 years, preventing any general from building a personal army. High command becomes a shared responsibility rather than a path to power. Imagine if Washington had established a tradition of generals serving briefly before returning to civilian life. America's democratic guardrails strengthened by military deference to civil authority. On our map, watch as this reformed republic doesn't just survive, it thrives, expanding not through conquest alone, but through integration, trade, and the powerful appeal of becoming Roman. Ripple effects through history. As our alternate Roman Republic stabilizes and thrives, history's great currents shift in profound and unexpected ways. The ripples of Rome's continued republicanism spread outward through time, reshaping everything they touch. Consider Christianity's early days. In our timeline, imperial persecution created martyrs, underground churches, and eventually Constantine's conversion and Christianity as a state religion. But in a republican Rome, imagine a different path. A flourishing religious marketplace where Christianity competes with Mithraism, Judaism, and traditional Roman religion without the dramatic persecutions or imperial endorsement. Christianity might spread more slowly but organically, perhaps remaining closer to its communal roots rather than becoming an imperial power structure. Think of it like early Buddhism's spread through debate and example rather than royal decree. Roman technology, free from the stagnation that imperial bureaucracy eventually created, continues its remarkable pace of innovation. The Republic's competitive political environment rewards practical solutions to public problems. Aqueducts, roads, and public works expand, but now with provincial input and adaptation. Without an emperor's whims dictating resources, engineering advances flourish based on merit and practical need. It's similar to how America's decentralized system produced the explosion of innovation in the 19th century. When the climate shifts and Germanic tribes begin migrating southward in the 4th and 5th centuries, they encounter not a weakened, overextended empire, but a resilient federation of Romanized provinces with citizen militias and professional legions. Rather than invasion and collapse, we might see negotiated settlement and gradual integration, much as the European Union today absorbs new members through adaptation and compromise. The Mediterranean remains a Roman lake, but increasingly shared with trading partners rather than subjects. Greek philosophical traditions blend with Roman pragmatism, creating centers of learning throughout the Republic's territories. Knowledge preservation becomes a civic virtue, not just a monastic one. And the darkest shadow over European history, the collapse of urban life, trade networks, and literacy that we call the Dark Ages, might never fall at all. The world we might live in today. Step onto the streets of Nova Roma, our alternate timeline's version of New York. The skyscrapers still reach toward the heavens, but they're adorned with colonnaded facades and civic inscriptions in a modern Latin that has evolved but never died. You're a citizen not just of the American province, but of the Roman Republic itself. a political entity that has endured for over 2,500 years. Democracy in this world isn't a rediscovery, but an unbroken tradition. The Senate, now a global body meeting both in physical chambers and through technology, debates issues with procedural rules dating back millennia. Modern consuls serve their single-year terms, proud to follow in the footsteps of thousands before them. Term limits aren't a reform, but a sacred tradition. The map looks strikingly different. Europe isn't divided by nation-states born of medieval kingdoms, but by administrative provinces with local governance under the republican framework. Religious conflicts never carved the deep divisions we know. The Protestant Reformation likely never occurred in a world where Christianity developed as one of many tolerated faiths rather than an imperial mandate. North Africa remains integrated with the Mediterranean cultural sphere, its cities showcasing architectural styles that blend Roman fundamentals with local traditions evolved over centuries. The Middle East might feature different religious landscapes without the vacuum left by Rome's fall that enabled Islam's rapid expansion. Technology might surprise us most. The systematic knowledge sharing of a stable republic could have accelerated human innovation. Perhaps their industrial revolution came centuries earlier. Or consider this startling possibility. What if slavery, which in our timeline persisted through empires, had been abolished thousands of years ago through republican reforms and evolving notions of citizenship? The languages you'd hear would be most unfamiliar, not French, Spanish, or Italian, but evolved forms of Latin with regional characteristics. No Dark Ages means no linguistic splintering. Most profound would be our concept of political identity itself. Nationality might seem as archaic as tribal affiliation, with citizenship in the Republic, with its graduated rights and responsibilities, being humanity's primary political organization for over 2 millennia. Conclusion. We've journeyed through a Rome that never was, but perhaps its greatest lesson lies in our own world. Though the Republic fell, its ideals, citizenship, representation, checks on power, survived like seeds buried beneath the snow of centuries, waiting for their season to return. When America's founders gathered in Philadelphia, they looked back across time to the Republic that had inspired them. When modern nations draft constitutions, they still grapple with questions Romans debated in forums long silent. The Republic's greatest victory wasn't lasting forever. It was planting ideas that would outlive its fall. That's all for today. If you have enjoyed this video, don't forget to show some love by hitting that like and subscribe button and follow for more content like this.